We're working on today is little cervical CARs in a quadruped position. This is just a little different variation of what your CARs routine could look like. So from here, as I'm on my alt fours, hands underneath my shoulders, knees under hips, and on my toes on the backside, we go through the same motion of tucking the chin, rotating out to the side, ear towards the shoulder, look up towards the ceiling, rotate over towards the side, ear towards the shoulder, back down to our start. And then we reverse that. Back towards the left as we rotate towards the left, ear towards shoulder, up towards the ceiling, rotate towards the right, ear on down, chin back to midline. Our next sequence here in this quadruped position is going to be some shoulder CARs. So we want to find sort of our neutral spine, whatever that looks like to you. Start by externally rotating this arm, start to lift up over. Our goal here is to try and keep everything else quiet as we're moving directly through the shoulder. Start to rotate, and as we start to lift, your goal is just try and push towards the ceiling as high as you can. Bring it on down to that start. Reverse here again, push towards the ceiling, externally rotate that shoulder, start to lift all the way up and around, and then back to that starting position. And we want to do both sides, 3 to 4, 5, repetitions on the right side. Same thing over on the left-hand side. This is our spinal segmentation. We want to go down into a quadruped position here. Our goal is to really start to move each one of our spinal segments. So this is reminiscent of a cat-cow position, except when we do cat-cow, we're just going into like gross movements. Here we want to really try and create better segmental movement. So I'm going to start my low back, and I'm just going to slowly just start to work each spinal segment all the way up into my mid-back, trying to again keep head quiet while everything else is moving, sinking through my mid-back, and then all the way up into my neck. And then as I reverse it, I'm going to tuck the chin as I'm pushing cervical spine towards the ceiling, and I'm slowly working through each cervical vertebral segment, and then I'm moving into my mid-back. Keep trying to push mid-back up towards the ceiling. And then I'm working into mid-back, trying to keep low back in a stable spot. And then slowly get into lumbar spine flexion. Again, as far as you can go, that's comfortable with no pain. And then we can start to reverse that again as we go back down into that slow, extended position. And then tuck that chin again. Good. And that's our spinal CARs. We go wrist CARs, and then we're going to go into a little wrist loading or PAILs and rails motion. So with our wrist CARs, our first goal is to pull back into extension here. We're going to rotate as far in as we can go, pull as far up as we can go here, rotate ourselves around, as far around to the side. Again, always doing a clockwise or counterclockwise motion out towards the thumb side. Just something to think about. Going out towards the thumb side here is you're not going to have the same motion as you would going in towards your pinky side. So now as we start to pull back up towards that thumb side, and we're going to start to move. My goal is to really keep a flat hand as much as I can, and I'm maximally trying to pull. My other goal here is, for those of you that can't quite control at the forearm, put your cell phone here on your forearm, because the goal, or what you're going to want to do, is start to pronate more. We want to keep this forearm quiet we want to move directly through this wrist. So as I'm starting to move here, as you can watch, you can see that my forearm here is fairly quiet as we're going through my motion. Now when I want to go a little bit slower, I really want to try and carve out as much space as I can through each one of these little movements that I'm trying to get my wrist into. Whether that's the clockwise position or the counterclockwise. In each circle, you're really trying to grab a little bit more space out of that wrist motion. And there's your wrist CARs. All right, here what we're going to be doing is we're going to be loading our wrists. So what you want to be able to find is a comfortable position as you start to lean yourself forward here. So for me, this is about right into this position. So from here, I'm going to slowly start to push my fingers down into the floor. So as I'm pushing down into the floor here, I'm really trying to create maximal stretch here on my forearm flexors. So as I start to push, it could be a 5 or 10% push. You can slowly ramp yourself all the way up to whatever your maximum 100% effort might be. But that's a slow build. So as I'm going to start to push, I'm just going to focus on left hand here. As I really start to push and push into the ground, you could do both at the same time if you choose. As I'm pushing here, once I hit my 100% effort, you may start to notice that your tissue starts to shake here. That's okay. And then I want to reverse that. As I reverse, I'm going to try and now pull my fingers up off the floor. So as I'm really starting to pull up off the floor, now what I'm trying to get is I'm really trying to maximize my extensors here on the back of my forearm and the back of my hand. And then the reverse of that is going to be, we would go into, I call it this little diamond position. So as I sit myself back a little bit here, I also want to see, do I have free movement of my forearms? Or do my forearms seem to be locked? So here, as I'm trying to lean back, I'm going to get a big stretch now. So I'm getting a maximal stretch on my wrist extensors. I'm going to create maximal flexion of the flexors here of my forearm and my hand. So same sort of thing we did in the previous one is I'm going to pull the back of my fingers into the ground, 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and so forth, all the way up to whatever you want to go, 100% effort if you choose to. So this here is going to be uncomfortable for many people. So as I'm starting to pull, then my goal here, once I get to my maximum, is that I want to start to curl. And I really want to try and make a fist. So what I'm doing here is I'm making this fist is now I am maximally stretching everything on this back side, and I'm maximally contracting everything on the front side. Little cheats that you may notice is you're going to take tension away by locking out the elbow. So again, we want to try and lock that elbow out as much as possible. If you don't have that wrist flexibility, you can always put a buffer underneath here, a washcloth or something like that that's going to give you that angle that you can now start to work with, so you can slowly start to build a little bit more tissue resiliency to get into that sort of that 90-degree position that your wrist, should be able to get to. Our goal in this one here is a little dead bug position. So we're going to work on a little breathing. So we want legs to come up to about a 90-degree angle here. Goal here now is trying to maintain that 90. We're going to tuck the chin, try and flatten the ribs towards the ground. We don't want to see any rib flaring or really hyperextension of that lumbar spine. The other thing we want to see is we don't want to see heels dropping towards the butt. So again, trying to keep that 90-degree angle here. Really going to get your hips to start to work. So from here, all I want you to try and focus in is a 3-second inhale through the nose, 3-second exhale through the mouth. You can work on 5 to 6 little repetitions. You can do more if you choose to. But as you start to work on that 3-second inhale and that 3-second exhale, it's really trying to control some of that diaphragmatic breathing. As you start to control that, you can start to work on 4-second inhale, 4-second exhale. You can work all the way up to an 8 or a 9 or a 10-second, inhale and exhale if you choose to. That's definitely a little bit more demanding. And then just give yourself a little break and rest. Okay, our next phase here is we're gonna incorporate that breathing with the dead bug with a little resistance. So same position here in that 90-degree. Hands are gonna match right at your knees here. If you have a hard time controlling what the knees can do, you can always place an object in between the knees. You can create a light little squeeze. So here, all we're looking for is a 5 to 10% little resistance. You're going to push with the knees, push with the hands, and then same thing, focus on the breathing. 3-second inhale, 3-second exhale. Repeat 3, 4, 5, 6 times, whatever you find comfortable or whatever you can actually do at this moment in time. And again, 3, 4, 5, 6 repetitions. Again, whatever you're looking at doing. And our last one here, this is sort of an ELDOA dead bug sort of combination position. So we're going to create a crisscross with our hands. Same position, 90 degrees here. We're just going to cross the hands at the knees here. Same thing, little effort of resistance between my hands and my legs. Focus on the breathing, that's key. Tuck that chin, lengthen through the spine here. As I start to kick one leg up, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna start to reach out, and as I reach out and above my head, I'm thinking of one long line between my fingers and my heel as I keep resistance here, as I match that. Now I'm gonna pull, 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 pull. Meet that resistance here again. Here we go, right side. Reach to the ceiling, start to lengthen between left arm and right foot, all the way down, hover across the ground, create one long line, back on up again, match that knee, create that pressure, repeat that sequence, keep the breathing going, the 3-second inhale, 4-second exhale, try and keep good quality control through the hips and the opposing arm. In this position, we're going to be working on some end range plantar flexion position, which is really going to stress calves, Achilles, soleus. So great for Achilles issues, plantar fasciitis issues. Again, we're really just trying to stimulate that tissue at its end range position. So as I have my heels resting on the block here, my heels aren't directly on the block, they're off just a little bit here. And so what I'm looking to do is I want to curl my toes to the floor or to the box here as much as I can. So as I'm actively curling right now, I'm really firing everything here on this outside position and on the inside for that matter. And then you may start to cramp here as well, which is, it is okay. And then I'm going to slowly go into a bridge position, and I'm going to start to drive my toes through the floor as I'm squeezing my glutes and I'm pushing through the floor here. You're going to get hamstrings to fire as well while you're there, but you're really trying to get, that foot and that heel. I can come off and I can repeat and I can drive. I can bring myself back down here again. And as I bring myself back down, my goal is to try and not let my toes come off that box, as I'm lowering my glutes to the floor. So the sequence here again is first I'm going to try and curl down to the floor, getting those toes to the box. If you can't get there, that's okay, right? As you can see, mine isn't there. But then as I start to come up, my toes will hit the floor. So now I'm going to start to drive as I keep driving through my hips here. You're going to get hamstrings to start to work. How high can we get into this position? And then as I slowly start to come down, I want to try and keep my toes on the box as I start to lower myself here, which is now going to maximize my plantar flexion and get calves and get Achilles and everything really starting to fire. Hold and just keep lowering slowly and slowly and slowly as far down as you can go until those toes come up and off the ground. Our goal here is to try and get as vertical as we can through our feet. And then we just want to go down nice and slow. And then it's like a touch and go. Heel touches, lift back up. Again, remember, our goal here is to really try and move through the big toe. We don't want to roll towards the outside of our toes here. Try and really keep it into that big toe. And then down. If we want to add a little prop, we can always put a ball here as well. And we can imagine we're trying to scoop that ball into our heel. And as you're scooping, same sort of movement, as high as you can up by you're still scooping that ball underneath your heel. Great way to activate like tibialis posterior. And then down just nice and easy. Good. Repeat, scoop, lift. Again, trying to get as vertical through the toes as you can. Let those toes relax at your top end position. Don't try and grip the ground. Again, down nice and easy. Good. As you get better with that movement, we can go all the way on up. Go into a little dorsiflexion here, other side. Down nice and easy. Back on up. Shift, dorsiflex. Down nice and easy. Another one, calf raise here. If you're having a hard time really trying to get vertical, now bend the knees slightly. As you bend the knees, you can start to get higher as well. So then from here, really try and hold that as you now start to straighten out the legs. And you're gonna feel, again, calf, soleus, Achilles, really start to engage. If you need to come back down, now we can start to move through the knees while we stay vertical. If you have that hard time again, you can put the ball between the heels. If you're starting to move out into a V position or out towards your pinky toes. And again, down nice and easy. Last movement here. Go up into our calf raise, bend that knee, hold this position here, and I'm now trying to reach back. Reach here, bring that forward. Reach back. You might get those shakes, that's okay. Reach here, back down, up. For our calves, we can go into a runner's lunge position. And then from here, let's go all the way up into a calf raise on that front leg. Hold for that 5 seconds, and then down just nice and easy. And then back up again, as high as you think you can get. Now here I can drop back down, and I can try and get more vertical here. I can hold that and try and push myself up tall. So either way that you do, you're just really trying to change the position of what your foot to your big toe to your ankle to your knee to your hip. Really trying to sequence all those different movements. Great for runners, great for toe issues, great for plantar fasciitis issues, great for control. All right, here we're just gonna start with a little wall sit. And as we do this wall sit, we're gonna incorporate some of the calf mechanics that we've been working on here the last few movements. So as you squat down, your goal is to get comfortable in whatever position of your wall sit that you can get into. If that's here at about a 45-degree angle, this is where your starting work is from. If you can get down to a 90 degree, get yourself down to 90 if you like. What I like is tuck the chin, push the head into the wall, try and push the back towards the wall, maintain spine, and then from here, breathe. And then can we go into a calf raise position as far as you can go. Very reminiscent of what we did on the box earlier. And then heel on down. Toes on up. Don't let your butt move away from the wall. Keep it on the wall here. And then down just nice and slow. S1 ELDOA move here. We're gonna have Andrew sort of windshield wiper himself up the wall here. So easiest thing is put left or right hip on the wall, slide yourself around. There's a few goals here. So as he scoots himself here, our goal is to get our tailbone pulled to the floor. If you're too tight and you can't bend your knees, or you have to bend your knees, go ahead and start to bend them, take tension away. The goal is to not allow your tailbone to come up off the ground. So his first moves here is to slowly push the knees back towards the wall, if he's able to do it. You can also work through this position if you need to. Tuck the chin down. So we want to think long spine. So as he pulls tailbone to the floor, he tucks his chin. We're really just trying to move that spine from north to south. Take some good breaths, so we really want to get that diaphragmatic breathing going. Usually 2 or 3 or 4 of those, and then we're going to start to do some of these movements. Our first movement here is going to be toes to the nose. So it's going to wind up some tension coming that entire posterior chain. Always watching what's going to happen up here at the neck as well. Our goal now is to start to internally rotate. So what I'll tell people is I want you to have like a little light piece of paper in between 2 of these big toes, if you can just lightly touch, and then keep that pressure right there. And as you do that, you're going to feel, some nice tension building up into that low back and through the legs. From here, same thing, check tailbone. If you have to put your hand underneath there to feel, you can, or just have them just tack it to the floor. Keeping this pressure pulling down and in. Hands are now going to come up and go into an externally rotated position. So what I tell people is I want like a flat hand contact, almost as if you're holding like a plate on top of your hand. And then fingers, I want to try and get, towards the legs here. So from this position, tuck that chin, deep breath in, toes in, pull the toes to the nose, push the knees back, pull the tailbone to the floor here, and then slowly start to push this pressure up through your hand all the way up and towards the wall here. So as he keeps that tension, we still want to focus on the good breathing. Same thing, don't let tailbone come off the floor, so we want to tack that tailbone, drive the palms above your head, tuck that chin, deep breaths, push the knees into the wall, watch the toes here, keep that tension, and then bring these toes in a little bit more, wind up that pressure there. Good. And we're just going to reverse this. So keep these toes touching, toes to the nose, drive the heels up towards the ceiling, knees behind you, tailbone to the floor, deep breaths through here, perfect. Exhale, and then lengthen. We could have them go into 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, or even, a few little repetitions as we walk through them. What you'll always see is these toes are going to start to come across. They're really trying to keep these toes together here. And then as he's ready, arms are going to come up while he keeps tension still on the legs here. Keep that chin tucked. Perfect. Slowly start to bend at the knees. Good, he can grab his knees and just sort of pull the knees towards his chest. He can rock side to side if he wants. And then as he goes to get up, roll to your side, left or right side, go to the knees, and then just sit there for a couple of seconds. The last goal that we want is you to meet the ground again, so in a bad way. And then when you're ready, stand up and walk away.